Well, I'm thinking with February here, the shortest month of the year, yes, we've discarded January completely. I think 2021 is finally arrived. But what's really changed except the dates on the calendar? I mean, I go skiing every weekend, still write for the blog, still do this podcast every week. Oh, that's right. There's a major change in the leadership of the country. There's that. So, Hey, welcome to Trade Show Guy Monday Morning Coffee. Be sure to find us online at tradeshowguy.net, which is a good jumping off point for all the things we do. Great trade show exhibits, 2 trade show marketing books, training videos, webinars, and much more. Subscribe to my newsletter as well. It comes out every Monday afternoon. It's about a 5 to 7 minute read, I suppose. Links to the blog posts we do, as well as this particular video slash podcast. So just find it at tradeshowguy.net or go to tradeshowguyblog.com. There you go. Got a fun interview this week. It was shortly after I got into this business a long time ago that I ran across a book called Guerrilla Trade Show Selling, co-written by the great J. Conrad Levinson, Mark S.A. Smith, and Orvel Ray Wilson. This book right here, as a matter of fact. At the time, I was working for a company here in Salem, Interpretive Exhibits, and came from a radio background, so I was actually posting phone interviews that I'd done with a lot of people on our company website before podcasting was really a thing, before they figured out a way to syndicate audio files and call it podcasting. So I think I might have actually gone to some sort of seminar that Orvel Ray Wilson had done up in Portland, got his book, got a signed copy of it, and I reached out to him and got him on the podcast at that point, even though before it was a podcast. And I was going through some files the other day, and I ran across his name, and I ran across this book. And so I emailed him and said, hey, let's go back on the show. You got to come back on the show with me. And he said, great. So we set it up. So our guest is co-author of 6 of the legendary guerrilla marketing books, translated into 63 languages and more than 26 million books in print for more than 40 years. He's been traveling the world helping people just like you learn to get the edge you need to win in today's competitive market. He has spoken in more than 1,000 cities in 47 countries on every continent except Antarctica. As an executive speech coach, he helps professionals discover, develop, and deliver their unique message to the world. Today, he's going to share his insights on speaking and marketing in the virtual environments and more. Joining me via Zoom from his studio in the mountains of Coal Creek Canyon, Orvel Ray Wilson. Pleasure to have Orvel on. I want to welcome Orvel Ray Wilson to Trade Show Guy Monday Morning Coffee. Orvel, I appreciate you spending some time with me. Thanks. It's good to see you again. It's been a while.
It's a pleasure, Tim. Thank you.
I know we connected many years ago, early on when I got into this industry, and I will tell you that I ran across your book, and I'm not sure how it happened, but you sent me a signed copy of it, and I learned a lot from it about the concepts of trade show marketing early on as I was kind of learning the industry. I came from radio. I had no idea the trade show world existed, and it was kind of fun to go through there, and I picked a lot out of it over the years. And I think in a sense it's dated, but also in a sense the concepts are still clear. I mean, the only sense I think it's dated is that social media has come in and changed a lot of stuff, but all the guerrilla stuff is still true. So
all the guerrilla stuff is still true. People still use business cards. They still use billboards. They still, if they have any sense at all, they pick up the telephone and talk to their customers. Social media has just added a whole nother arsenal of weapons on top of the more than 200 that we've written about in the series over the years. Yeah, you probably got that book back when it first came out. We were begging for people to do reviews for us. But it's gone on to become one of the best-selling books on the topic in publishing history.
And you've also, we mentioned at the top that you've done several other books with J. Conrad Levinson. Tell me about that collaboration, how that came about. I know he's passed in the last few years, but that must have been a very fruitful collaboration for you guys.
Well, yeah, he started with his first book, Guerrilla Marketing, published in 1984. In 1989, his agent approached me to ghostwrite a sequel on sales called Guerrilla Selling. The rationale being that there were more salespeople than marketing people, and there was a bigger market for it. And my response was I didn't want to be anybody's ghost. And so I picked up the phone and talked to Jay about the project, and we instantly became, fast friends. He became the dad I never had. And Guerrilla Selling, when it first came out, it sold out its first printing of 25,000 copies before it came out of bindery, and it went on to become a big success and kind of carried the rest of the series with it. The Guerrilla Marketing series now includes 56 titles
Wow.
translated into 63 languages. We just passed 26 million books in print worldwide. Is the most successful marketing series in publishing history. And I collaborated on 6 of those titles, along with a handful of other people, including Jay Levinson and Seth Godin and Mark Smith. And there were several of us that produced that body of work.
Well, it changed a lot of the way. It changed the way people looked at marketing and just how you approached it. Because the traditional way was you went to hire a big ad agency and you put $1 million into ads, and so many small companies didn't have any of that. And what I found interesting about the trade show selling is that trade shows, as I slowly learned over years what trade shows really could do. Yes, it was kind of expensive to get there, but you didn't have to throw a whole bunch of money at it. You could do a lot of stuff at trade shows and get a lot of leads and make it really worth your while if you knew what you were doing.
Right. Well, you can partly this book is targeted to people who, can go to a trade show and prospect for business as well without buying a booth, without spending any money at all. Ask for a press badge and go around and interview all your competitors. That's only one of dozens of strategies like that we write about in the book.
Yeah, and they're all great ways to just kind of be on the floor and figure out what's going on and meet people. There's a lot of networking involved. There's a lot of gathering information, and then a lot of the follow-up obviously comes out after the show. So what have you been doing in the last several years? We kind of talked in the green room about some of the things you've kind of shifted to coaching and that. Are you doing much writing anymore at all, for instance, or are you just doing the coaching with clients?
Well, I spent 30 years on the international circuit talking about guerrilla sales and marketing. And in 1989, I was in a severe accident and broke my back. Was paralyzed for a while. I spent some time in an electric wheelchair, and my days of touring and traveling just came to an abrupt halt. My buddies in NSA, my fellow speakers, came out of the woodwork and said, "Can we lick stamps? I'll go do the gig for you. We'll give you the money." I was like, "No, but I could really use some company." So they come up here to the house and hung out by my hospital bed, and we, as people are inclined to do, talk shop. And after a few months, they started asking, "How much would you charge to continue coaching me?" I thought we were just having a conversation. So, well, no, my business has like doubled in the last 3 months, and it's been really helpful. I'd like to continue that. And so I, reevaluated, and I've always done my best work through collaboration. So I went back to school and got a certification and started coaching clients formally. And I help people discover, develop, and deliver their unique message to the world, wherever that may be. So that book inside you, Tim's going to have to come out. And then we're going to turn it into a keynote speech and a seminar and a sales presentation or whatever to position you as a thought leader in your market. So I work with clients that are doing
public speaking and or writing. So you help them compile whatever message they have and narrow it down and make it work for their audience. Help uncover who the audience is. Is that a good sense of what you're doing with them?
That's right. And then we apply everything we know about guerrilla marketing to help them find an audience and find a market and double their business in a year or more. And we had a record year last year doing that. So I'm really excited. I'm not doing any writing myself, except I'm really excited about 3 different books I'm working on right now with 3 different clients.
Oh, cool.
Who are part of that stable. We're very near the ending. It's always exciting when you get it, it's like ready to get a page proof and get laid out and go to press.
Well, I know books are challenging and they're long, they're a big project. I've written and self-published a couple of business books on trade show marketing, and I've written 3 novels, and I'm at the second and third pass through a couple of them, and it's quite a project. Wow. You got to keep a lot in your head to keep moving. I'm curious how the pandemic has affected you and or your clients. Have you, since you've already been doing coaching? Probably not a lot on the road. Maybe it hasn't affected you that much, but are these clients doing like virtual keynotes? I'm just curious what kind of things that you guys have done to adapt to all of that.
Well, the clients I'm working with, and most of the successful speakers I know from my membership in the NSA over the last 40 years, is that, virtual is here to stay.
Yeah.
Not just virtual school, virtual work, virtual presentations, virtual education, virtual everything. It's going to be part of our culture, going forward. I mean, if you think back, it wasn't that long ago that cell phones weren't part of our life. Now they're part of our wardrobe.
Now people bump into you walking down the street because they're paying attention to their phone and not where they're walking.
And virtual is going to be. I was just sitting through a master class yesterday with Patricia Cripps, the SBCTE past president of the National Speakers Association. She's been my coach on and off over the years, and she was saying that this is here to stay, and we all have to be able to master this technology and be effective within this medium. And it requires everything that you know about storytelling and stagecraft and content delivery and adult learning and all of the things that would go into a live presentation, except now we have to squeeze it through a fiber of glass the size of a human hair.
Yeah.
and that poses a lot of challenges. The clients I'm working with are doing two things in the virtual world. One, they're doing live presentations, ranging from 15 people in a Vistage session to a couple of thousand people in a virtual keynote, big room, big virtual stage, if you will. And they're also making a transition to online learning, where they're taking, their book or their seminar or their coursework that they normally would deliver to a team on site, and they're putting that up online in online learning modules. And the ones who are most successful are actually using this hybrid approach, where they combine, say, a live keynote kickoff then with a timed courseware assignment, and supporting that with one-on-one contact and individual coaching of those students as they work through, and then a final capstone summary presentation at the end, coupled with a continuity program so that they drip feed that content to that audience continuously over the next year or so to encourage and reinforce them to use what they've learned.
Yeah, it's great to see the tools really come to fruition for all that. I know that a lot of I saw online classes kind of start 10 or 12 years ago. I looked into it. There's like software that you can use for websites when you're building your site, a lot of plugins for WordPress and things like that to dole the classes out on a paid basis. But, since then, you're right. A lot of things have changed. Video has just become the dominant force online, as you can tell by everyone doing Zoom meetings and getting Zoom fatigue.
Right.
I want to kind of shift before we wrap this up. I want to go back to the trade show world with the guerrilla trade show selling. And, some of the tips that you give some exhibitors, what would you say to exhibitors like basic boothsmanship? What should they remember when they're in the booth? There's a lot of things that are no-nos. What kind of top of the mind tips come to mind?
Well, divide your budget into thirds. And a third of your budget in advance of the show to let your audience, especially your customers, know that you're going to be there and where they can find you. Update your graphics. Make sure you have good, collateral material. Put a process in place to capture and screen leads and respond to those leads immediately. And a third of your budget at the show, that includes the rental of the exhibit space, your travel expenses, etc. And then save a third of your budget for after the show for follow-up. That's probably where most exhibitors really fall down.
Yeah.
If I could give them one key piece of advice, it would be get off your butt, stand up, and get out into the aisle. I saw an analysis, I'm sure you've probably seen this same research, where they put video cameras in the ceiling and then used, I guess what they call a hotspot, analysis, where they where they digitally analyze the traffic, and there's an imaginary barrier between the exhibit and the aisle, and that barrier, it's like a Star Trek force field.
It is.
It's purely psychological, but it's just as powerful. And often there's a boundary. Maybe the aisle carpet is blue and the carpet in your booth is bright red. Well, the boundary between those two, that line forms, literally keeps the people in the aisle from approaching you. And the way that you make that force field go away is to break it up, preferably by stepping across that line or standing right on the line between the colors of carpet. And suddenly you'll find that the number of people who make eye contact with you and slow down and stop a step, or may even initiate a conversation, will multiply dramatically. And this isn't something that's fanciful. I've watched the tape. I've seen the videos. The effect is like day and night.
It's crazy. Yeah.
We did some training for the Malaysian Airport Authority retailers. So there are 17 airports in Malaysia. They're all run by the federal government of Malaysia, and they all have retail space like any typical airport. Each of these retail stores has a grate that rolls down out of the ceiling. And in the Kuala Lumpur airport, there's a big, bright yellow line painted on the floor where the grate comes down. And we did time-lapse video with stores who had moved fixtures and exhibit stuff out into the aisle onto the yellow line. And they had sometimes twice, sometimes three times as much traffic as stores that kept all of their fixtures behind the yellow line inside the store.
Yeah.
Because it breaks up this psychological barrier. Our recommendation to them was get on your hands and knees with a razor blade.
Just scrape the line out.
Get rid of that. Just get rid of the. It doesn't. It's not doing any good, right? You're not.
It's interesting the psychology we go through, and of course, the other part of it we talked briefly about was body language. I mean, a guy with his arms crossed is saying to people, "Stay away." It's very subtle. Hands in pockets, that's kind of not as welcoming. Hands by the side, that's not bad. Eating is really a big no-no. People don't want to bother people eating. So if you're sitting in the back of the booth and they can see you with a sandwich,
reading a newspaper and sharing a pizza, right?
Yeah, and today, of course,
have you seen that on the exhibit floor? Oh,
and of course, if you're like this all day long, sitting in your booth, no one is going to bother you. So. There's a lot that goes into it. And there's so much that you can learn about good boothsmanship by having someone that really knows and can train your staff. And I think on a regular basis, because your staff is going to cycle through and from one year to the next, they're going to learn.
I can recommend a great book on that.
Yeah, there you go. Orville, it's great to see you again. I really appreciate your time. This is the Trade Show book that I got a long time ago, and you might have even sent it to me for free. I don't remember. But it's Guerrilla Trade Show Selling, New Unconventional Weapons and Tactics to Meet More People, Get More Leads, and Close More Sales. You're at the very bottom, along with J. Conrad Levinson and Mark S.A. Smith. So thanks again. We'll make sure we put links to your site to so people can find you, and want to wish you well. And thanks again for spending time here.
Thank you, Tim. It was my pleasure.
Thanks again to Orvel Ray Wilson for joining me on this week's Trade Show Guy Monday Morning Coffee. Check show notes for links on how to get in touch with him. Just about to wrap up this week's episode. This week's One Good Thing. I don't have it yet, but I've pre-ordered it. It's the brand new Foo Fighters album coming out in a few days called Medicine at Midnight. They've debuted, I think, 2 songs off it. I saw one on Saturday Night Live, and I saw a new single in the last couple of weeks. Looking forward to this album. They were going to wait till they were going to tour, but the tours all got canceled. This album was ready quite a long time ago, several months. And finally they said, the heck with it. We're just going to put it out and let the chips fall where they may. I can't wait to hear it. I'm sure it'll be fun. Have yourself a great week, and join me again next Monday for Trade Show Guy Monday Morning Coffee. And find us at tradeshowguy.net.